food, starvation, the recipe, people subdued. When the people you trust got it in for you. Deceit is the word of the day and every clue. Don't let it go, it's from the days of old. Time is up, but some still do not know. Can I make up my mind? Is it worth the dime? Do I have to take a minute just to make it mine? Life's never fair, but don't listen to the TV. Go out and take a listen to the streets with the people in the slums and the homeless bums with degrees and degrees sitting under a tree. It's not easy in the world for the poor man, the one that brought you to reality. See, they don't want you to know about the black sheep, leaving 7 roads to the 12 families all around the globe with an ancient code. Is it really asking a lot to say a death old? Cause we sitting on the earth looking back at extinct, and I'm standing on some ground that's about to sink. I ain't scared for a minute, I ain't about to blink, but I documented for the world what I see and think. Feel we on the call and up and we on the break. All Congress gonna do is waste paper and ink. Vote or die, you voted and you'll die. You can have it both ways, can't say it's a lie. You can march all you want, but they playing you wrong. They only understand war, it's the same old song. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. Like a lotus coming out of the mud with colors, I create envy in those with power but jealous. I unify the poor with my song, the hell with the others. Descended the way they treat indigenous brothers, cause I understand we link forever. They try to hate us even though that we keep it together. I'm not talking about controlling the air or the weather, I'm talking about maintaining the truth, the high endeavor. A rebel drops bombs in the midst of trouble. The free world counterattack and now there's double, but nature gets the shit in a way that's subtle. If you stop the machines for a minute you might hear, but they won't cause the TVs whisper in the ear. And capitalism has eyes that don't tear, and they cloud up and get crazy and won't steer. And like an ab, it's hard to get an ass to listen. Living like this is like living in prison. It's hard to keep hope when you're living in prison. The spiritual thoughts, so yes, the mental prison. The outside, yes, it's got to get through. Something's gotta die, so something here can live. Your life is nothing if you got nothing to give. Keeping the spiritual, yes, disguised as religion. Controlling your mind, the mental prison. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war.
Alrighty, so it is the 28th of August. I want to say what's up to everybody out there. Yeah, it's a funny day. This world is turning, and it's going to keep on turning. But the only question is, who's it going to keep on turning for? How you doing while it's turning? And are you keeping it real with yourself as it turns, you know? And some people are doing that, you know. Some people are finding their way, finding out why that's a valuable thing to do, keep it real with themselves on the journey. And then other places are having, and other people are having a little more tougher time, using a lot more energy, getting a lot less out of that energy and effort. So on that note, we're going to start the show. You know, first of all, I want to thank all the people that are out there, the Americans that are out there fighting for your country, right? Fighting for your country, standing up for your rights, your constitutional rights, you know, agitating, fighting back, doing it peaceful in the face of tyranny, you know, in the face of totalitarianism, in the face of the stick, the baton, the rubber bullet, the gas, you know, and the threats, the constant threats, the disrespect, the overt acts violating people's human and civil rights. Yeah, that's a hostile situation to be in. First of all, it's hostile just to have to watch somebody's human and civil rights be violated. That's a hostile, you know, thing to have to go through. But for those that have to go through it, it's even more, and it's terrible. I mean, we have to watch, as Americans, we have to watch our name be shitted on, basically, our whole country's name be trampled on, because, when you have nothing better to do than to rip a baby from a mother's arms, who already had permission under one president, under one, administration, just for the next to come along and happily, like a vengeance, to see someone suffer. I mean, these things are not necessary. Comprehensive immigration reform has been on the stage for like a decade now. It's been up to Congress to act on it. And, this is what they wanted to do. They wanted to see the violence, the violent parts of it. They don't want the comprehensive parts of it. They don't want to turn in any numbers on their actions. And that's not the only thing. Then you also have Trump now escalating it, trying to send out more, claiming that he wants to stop violence in inner cities or in America, in blue states, wherever the hell. And then only to find out that, yes, the data points to red states with violence, just like the data points to red states with a lot of stuff: violence, poverty, lack of education, lack of opportunities. I mean, now, don't get me wrong, blue states, people complain about lack of opportunities all the time, but their elected officials seem to make more strides, just a little, some more strides in that area. And because that's what blue state people think their representatives are for. They think their representatives are to make their lives better in their states. But red state voters don't feel that way. They don't feel like their representatives are to do something for them in their state. They more so feel like you're to go out and go into other people's states and to do things. And that's why red states don't get a lot of shit. A lot of their politicians are talkers, like what's this dude down in Texas, the guy who he talks a lot about Trump and immigrants, and he follows the Trump line, but I suspect he's a coward. Ted Cruz, I suspect he's really a coward, because look, this guy, for all of the, superhero Mr. America shit that he talks and backs up, he's actually a Cuban immigrant himself. I mean, he actually is himself. His pops was on the flip side. He's running around in America looking for communists. I believe one of his parents was actually a and I'm not the one picking on Castro, by the way. I believe Castro is a fellow American in the American Isles, in Cuba. You know what I mean? They fought for freedom too. So I'm not trying to disparage people that support Castro. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy of Ted Cruz. He's a hypocrite. And a lot of red states have these kind of hypocrite leadership. And the people just go for it and give them loads of money. They don't get jack shit back. The rest of us have to sit here and listen to Ted Cruz's ass, and just watch an imposter run wild while red state voters push him up on a pedestal and get him out there to represent their states. It's crazy. It's crazy, but this is what you watch. This is what and the world's smaller, so this is what the world watches. The world is watching. That's not like it was in the 50s. The TVs, everybody didn't have a TV in the 50s around the world. You know what I mean? So they had to listen to the radio if you were lucky. But today, people watch it in real time all over the world. We get to see how people behave. We get to hear what these people think from their own mouths like never before. So, you might be able to fool a few people, but you ain't going to fool us all, because we watching the shit too, all over here in Denmark. Over here in Copenhagen, Denmark, we're watching the news, and we're watching the American news. We're seeing what's going on in the U.S. and Somalia. They're watching the U.S. news. They're watching Trump, Canada, from Canada to Somalia and everywhere else in between. They're watching Trump's ass and how the Trump administration talks about the American people. and how it treats the American people. They're watching American values on display, on full display. And before I get into that, it really, the news of late, just the last 24 hours, 48 hours, has really got me, thinking a lot about what is freedom to Americans. Is What is freedom? What is freedom to an American, a USA American? I mean, that's what I mean. When I say American, actually, I need to qualify that. A USA American. What is freedom to this particular group of people? Is it the right to have a gun? Or is it the right to have a job that pays the bills, a full-time job that at least pays the bills? Which one? Is that part of freedom in the US? Not the one about the right to have a job that pays, the bills. No, that's not part of freedom in the US. The right to have a gun is. Is the right to education part of the freedom in the US? No, it's not, because a lot of education will cost you money. Technical school, university, and people are in debt a lot to it. That's not part of your freedom. That's something you have to, if some get it and some don't. That's not US freedom. US freedom is some get it, some don't. But that's not what freedom is in a lot of other countries. In a lot of other countries, freedom is not carrying a gun. It's having access to education, having access to a job that can pay the bills and support the family. To a lot of other people, that's what freedom is. To a lot of other people, that's, a right to have a place to rest your head, the right to have some food in your belly, not to have so much homeless. But in the US, that's not the case. That's not what American freedom is, because it's not a guarantee, for everybody. And everybody's not going to get it. It's not enough to go around for everybody. And as you can see, that's why Americans are fighting each other right now. And that's why Americans don't like each other right now. And it's okay to say you don't like each other, because I'm an American too. And I don't like some of y'all, how you all behave. How some of you behave, I don't like. It's straight up ignorant, straight up pathetic. And I don't like this administration. And I doubt very seriously I would personally like anybody that is in this administration at all. Like, they're totally not my kind of people at all. Period. They disgust me. And they're not impressive at all. They're really not impressive. And I think they're a disgrace to the human race, to be honest with you. But having said that, a lot of things been happening in the U.S. Wow, you had the what is it? The Minnesota? Is this Minnesota, where these shootings happen as of late? It was another gunslinger, and this is what I mean about the U.S. What is freedom? What does freedom really mean in the U.S.? And what is it about? And ironically enough, from what I heard, this is not a Trump supporter, but there's a manifesto. There's a there's a lot of other things going on with this, guns, shooting, and this is what you're seeing in the U.S. You're seeing this, and it is really it's really weird. Now, American citizens give the government a lot of stuff. They give the government all the money the government needs to function. The average American taxpayer does that. So in a sense, this like Trump administration and a lot of other people, in a sense, they're like on welfare, because they wouldn't survive if the American people didn't give them the tax dollars. So the tax dollars in every country on earth, not just the US, are designed to work for the taxpayer. That's the whole point, that you pay collectively into something and the collective gets something back. Without the collective pay in, you wouldn't get anything back. For example, California pays something like 80, I don't know how many more, 80, is it 80 million? Is it 80 million or is it 80 billion more? Something 80, let's just say million. They pay, let's say 80 million more into federal taxes, while a place like Texas pays 80 million less, right? But they have the same amount of representatives in Congress, right? So in some ways, Texas gets a lot of welfare from other taxpayers. The money goes out of other taxpayers' pockets in California, goes to Texas, a good amount of it. So that's kind of how the tax structure has been created in the U.S. That's how it's functioned for years. But as you hear a lot of Americans that don't even know their own tax structure. They don't even know that the citizen pays the taxes that the federal government operates on, including the president, the feds, ICE, all of this, education, school board, all of it is paid for by the taxes. And a lot of Americans, they they think that that is like, how can I say this? They believe like this tax money is not really coming from the average worker's pocket, that it's somehow coming from Trump's pocket or somehow coming from rich people's pockets. No, 75% of the federal budget is coming right out of payroll taxes. Payroll taxes. That means a person that gets up and punches the clock. And but yet, when it's time to do what American people want, a lot of times you will find this administration withholding money. Just like you could say in Texas, Texas had the flooding, and the federal government said, we're not going to send you disaster relief. Those were taxpayer dollars collected from taxpayers around the country, but also Texas. And then they said, well, now we got your payroll taxes, but we won't help you in a time of need. So in a way, it's just like paying into nothing, right? So my question is, why do people even pay taxes? But in any case, long story short, here we are. Another thing about how Americans see freedom. And all Americans don't agree on this. That's why Americans are fighting each other and arguing with each other, right? Some Americans get where I'm coming from. Others completely don't. They go totally blank, right? So let's examine what freedom means. It's not the same in every country. All types of people and nationalities, freedom is not described the same way and is not composed of the same elements.
First of all, I'm so sorry about what's going on in your own community. I know, Senator, that you have been speaking. Let's start with the human side of this, what I was just referring to. You've been speaking to family members, to parents of these very young children. What are you hearing?
Yes. So, first of all, I appreciate the work of the mayor. I've talked to the governor and our first responders, the hospital workers.
And hearts out to the people who lost their lives and the people affected, the children that had the witnesses and the children that are, people that were injured.
The fact that we had a children's hospital that's renowned so nearby we want these kids to be saved. But talking to the parents is where you really, I guess, your heart just wants to break. So one of my former employees who was with me a long time, she said I could use her name, Kate Nyland. Her daughter, Cora, was in there. She was one of the older kids. This is a pre-K through 8th grade school. Loved school in the neighborhood, beloved school with all the parents, and that church is right there next to it. So the kids were in the mass, and they were packed in there. And so this girl, 7th, 8th grade, literally watched her friends, some of her best friends, be shot, one in the neck, one in the stomach. And
now this is part of the conversation about what U.S. Americans feel freedom is. And freedom for a long period of time in the United States and, in our generation has involved a lot of senseless killing. Like a lot of the guns in the U.S. just go to senseless killing. People are either killing their wives for cheating. Other folks are, going out and shooting people they don't even know. because they got pissed off at one person. You know, there's a lot of that going on in the U.S. And while that goes on, the politicians are protecting it. The politicians would rather have this cycle continue as a marker in what it is to be free in the U.S. than to do something, you know, paramount to kind of change that dynamic. And you will hear more. You will hear the same dynamic. The person is pissed off. The person doesn't have a record. The person has plenty of access to guns, legal access to guns. But let me ask you, Americans, this, the ones that are, everybody's not American, but for the Americans, right? I want to ask you all, U.S. people, U.S. Americans, whether you live in the U.S. or not, right? What do you feel about gun rights? Like when you leave the house to get on your day, do you feel like you need a gun to protect yourself when you go out into your community, when you go out to work, when you go out with your families? Do you feel like you need a gun? And I'm just want to ask this question. If you do, put a 1 in the chat. I'm talking about just to enjoy your day. If you need a gun just to enjoy your day by yourself, with your family, mind your business, do what it do, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't feel like you need that, put a 2 in the chat. Me, myself, I don't live in the U.S. I live outside of the U.S. as an American citizen. I live in Copenhagen, and I never think about a gun. I leave the house skipping and shit down the street. La, 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 la. Minding my business, going to work. When I go out with my kids, it's me and my kids and and the mama. We don't need a gun. I feel like I can defend myself. What the heck? You know what I'm saying? I mean, so put a 1 in the chat if you feel like you need a gun in the U.S. to be free, to have a good day as you leave the house, and put a 2 in the chat if you don't. Even though I grew up in Washington, D.C., I never feel like I needed a gun. Just knowing where a gun is, just the fact that there's so many guns around. If I wanted to get a gun, I could get one, but I never left the house feeling like I needed one. I feel like I know how to negotiate without a gun. I know how to talk to people without a gun. And if somebody is desperate enough to want to rob me, hey, I'm going to give them what I got. It's not worth losing my goddamn life over. You see what I mean? But then again, when I see some of the senselessness and I hear some of the things, particularly when I hear stuff like from people like ICE, not even local people in DC, not even criminals. Criminals don't even make me feel like that in DC. You know who makes me feel like I need a gun in America? These people you see like ICE, these MAGA people, these kind of people, these racists, these bigots. They're the ones that make me feel like I need a gun. So if I never go into the parts of this country where they live primarily, then I pretty much don't need a goddamn gun. In the U.S., I'm more worried about rednecks killing people, innocently, than I'm worried about a dude or some guy in a gang in D.C. or some dude desperate to. I'm just telling you flat out. But that's my feeling. That's not everybody's feeling. But in Copenhagen, with my kids and my family, and I never leave the house feeling for 1 second like I need a gun, like I need to worry about anything. Nothing. No thought in the world. So 1, I see it's a lot of people to say 1. I hear you. A lot of people say 1. Look, we're not here to talk about taxes. The bottom line is this: 75% of the federal government's budget is collected through payroll tax, not corporate tax, payroll tax. That's all it is. You decide who you are in that equation. Everybody pays something. Poor is just a particular term. Poor doesn't mean you don't pay taxes. Okay. Jobless, you don't pay taxes if you're jobless, but you pay sales tax. But in any case, people should, be able to follow what I mean when I'm talking about the tax system in the US and how different Americans argue about how it should work. I'm acknowledging different Americans. I'm not closing down. Some Americans don't feel like the tax money that they pay should be used to better their lives. And you hear MAGA people talk about that all the time. They say, it's not, you shouldn't need that money. It's like, what the hell? What the hell are you talking about? Everybody else in every other country pays taxes to get some shit back from it. It's called collective bargaining. The things that everybody pay in for, taxes for, are the big projects to make sure the big projects get done. Roads, hospitals, the shit people need to survive, the main state things, water. Come on, all of that. But there's literally a lot of people today that think that paying taxes is just okay. You're not supposed to want anything back from it. It's like, meanwhile, all the politicians, they pay with their tax dollars too. They pay them all with their tax dollars. It's crazy. But in any case, let's get back to the guns.
When they were running out, when they finally got out, she was the one, this child, who had to tell one of her friend's dads that the friend had been shot. And of course, the chaos that would ensue in any place when there's a mass shooting like this. And the other information, that I got from the mayor and others were, of course, consistent with what you've heard. This was a madman, acting alone, somehow knows about this ceremony. All those facts will come out, standing outside of this mass and shooting.
There's a motivation behind this shooting that, don't get me wrong, guns are an issue. I believe guns are an issue. They're proliferated too much. It's a replacement. Guns in the U.S. are a replacement for real jobs, real security, real education, all the other things that make every other society a little more peaceful and a little more well functioning. The U.S. takes away those things and just replaces it with guns. Guns will make me more safe. So you still need the police then if you got a gun? Why you still need the police if you got a gun? God damn. Got loads of police. Look at a place like D.C. More police than anywhere else on earth, yet Trump is complaining about crime. So obviously, the more guns you have, it doesn't make it safer. That's obvious. There's something else missing. There's another element missing. And I would argue the elements are right in people's faces. Access to education, decent wage, decent fair housing. These kind of things. Access to healthcare. Things that make people feel secure. I think a gun will never replace those things.
One by one, these kids down as they're praying in the church.
I mean, just to hear you describe Cora, an 8th grader, 7th or 8th grader, having to tell the parent of her friend that they were shot. It's. I mean, anybody with kids, anybody with a beating heart, it's just beyond.
Right.
Do you know anything more about those more broadly who were injured, those who were killed?
Now, am I right? This is a person that had a manifesto that talked about killing Trump, if I'm correct, right? I don't know how real that is. I don't know if that's faked. You know how MAGA people always say everything's fake. Maybe that's fake. But in any case, this is what's been reported. I believe I'm correct about that. But let me ask you this. Is guns a Republican or Democrat issue? Do you think, Republican states have more violence. There's more violent crime in Republican states. I think they said out of the top 10, 8 out of the top 10 violent cities are actually in Republican states. So I'm pretty sure when they say violent crime, they mean with guns. For me, myself, I don't think guns should be a Republican or Democrat thing. I think guns should be an intelligence or stupidity thing. Like if you just examine other societies with less guns, you see pretty much in the Western countries less violent crime. You just pretty much see it. And the worst part about it is that another thing that you also see is more access to education in other Western countries, more access to healthcare in other Western countries, more access to union paying jobs or decent paying jobs, jobs that keep you functioning, and it just seems like in the US people go for this gun thing. It's kind of like being a macho man. It's very superficial. Like a gun doesn't provide, it's obvious it's not providing none of these people safety. It's not providing any of these community safeties. I mean, when it's organized, maybe police can bring safety, but look at the criminals. I mean, all these people that use these guns, they're getting these guns legally. All the people that use these guns this way are getting the guns legally.
And 10-year-old.
Right, an 8 and a 10-year-old, and then you have a total of 19 that we know of that were hit. 17, of course, we have 2 dead right now, 17 injured, and of those 14 were children. So there were also adults who were shot, right? There were most likely teachers or we don't know, people involved in the service. So there were also adults that were shot, and I'm sure as we hear the details on this, the stories of these people trying to get out the...
Okay, now do me a favor. If you believe the USA has a gun problem, put an X in the chat. If you don't believe it has a gun problem, then put a Z in the chat. So X if you believe the US has a gun problem, Z if you don't believe it does.
Stores trying to scramble underneath the pews, which is what they were told to do, to protect themselves. I know they're going to be tragic, but there will also be stories of heroism, stories of faith, stories of parents and others helping each other. But it is, when you think about what happened here and the fact that he had these 3 guns, multiple guns, I believe it was something over some kind of grievance that may not even involve the school, and those facts will be revealed when the police have thoroughly investigated them. But this is a time, as the mayor said, these just aren't someone else's kids. Anyone can imagine.
I grew up on the east side of D.C., Washington, D.C., and in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And we had an issue with guns just because of the drug epidemic that kind of went across the country. So a lot of the guns came with that. And although guns were illegal in D.C., all people engaged in real criminal activity could get access to guns because you can just buy them from somebody in Maryland or Virginia, right? That's not going to stop the criminals from having guns, making the law illegal, right? But having said that, I had to grow up watching a lot of knowing that gun violence could spark off at any time. I had to grow up that way, knowing that it could spark off at any time. And I also had to witness gun violence, and being a person that was able to kind of travel outside of DC as an adult, even as a young man, travel throughout the U.S. And travel outside of the U.S. too. I realized after being outside of the U.S. for a little bit that shit's only normal in the USA. That shit is only normal there. It's not actually normal. Violence harms people in communities in a psychological way that is very, a lot of people just feel like it's normal. It's so seductive, or the way that it works is like a lot of people aren't even conscious of their own behavior, how the reality that gun violence can happen at any time. A lot of people aren't aware of how they adjust their own behavior on a day-to-day and how much energy they put into adjusting their behavior every day, how you have to compensate for that. And the mere fact that a person always has to spend a lot of time thinking about the possibility of violence or being scared of their neighbor or being scared to go somewhere without thinking they're going to get robbed. Or, I mean, that's obviously why people have guns, right? To protect themselves, right? That's obvious what it is. It's not normal for a lot of people outside of the U.S. to think about these things, like flat out. But it took me a minute living outside of the U.S. before I could get that. And in my mind, that's what freedom really is about. Like freedom, being free of shit like that. That a lot of other people don't have to waste time on, and they could spend their time in a school, in a class, or spend their time doing something productive for society, thinking about something violence happening and adjusting your whole life because violence happens all around you. That's a really bad use of time. That's a really bad use of emotional energy, of psychological energy. But yet,
On the first day of school, I remember this, dropping your child off.
I mean, it's very, very primitive. It's very primitive. I had to say that for real, because to use the word society in the same sentence that we talk about this kind of shit is somewhat of a
To a
oxymoron.
bus or bringing them to the school, thinking they're going to be safe. It's just the most horrific thing any parent, and I know you are a parent as well, Dana, any parent can imagine.
Yeah, it sure is. Senator, you mentioned
Okay, well, hats to out.
But
I'm
you
sorry. My heart goes out to the victims
people.
and also people that are just affected by it in
Earlier
general.
today, just before 8:30 a.m., our city experienced an unthinkable tragedy. Minneapolis police officers responded to a report of a shooting at a mass that was happening at the Annunciation Roman Catholic Church on the block behind me. This worship service was marking the first week of school for children that are attending the Annunciation Catholic School. During the Mass, a gunman approached on the outside, on the side of the building, and began firing a rifle through the church windows.
Oh, the kid didn't even have a job, Bill? Damn. But that's how pathetic it is. That's what I'm saying. It's a waste of a life, even from the perspective of the young man who did it. It's just so tragic.
Towards the children sitting in the pews at the Mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. The shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible. Police officers from the Minneapolis Police Department immediately responded, entered the church, and attempted to provide first aid and rescue some of the children that were hiding throughout the building, while other first responders came and EMS responded to rush victims to nearby hospitals. 2 young children, ages 8 and 10, were killed where they sat in the pews. Their parents have been notified. 17 other people were injured, 14 of them being children. 2 of those children are in critical condition. The coward who fired these shots ultimately took his own life in the rear of the church. Our hearts are broken.
I agree. Like it is a cowardice act. This kind of thing. It's a cowardice act, but it's something that tends to happen a whole fucking lot. So it's not an isolated act, and so for me, it's like it just tells me that there's something else that needs to get looked into. Like calling him a coward. I'm not dissing the police officer, by the way, but I'm just saying the words. Calling him a coward. No, this guy needed help. Whoever did that is having a really, really fucking bad day. Mental illness, no question about it. Like, sure, there could be other motives to it. It doesn't erase the fact that there could be other motives to it. You never know, right? One thing doesn't replace the other. You can be sick and commit a hate crime, and you can be both, right? You can do both. But I mean, this happens so much that it's worth trying to figure out what was the guy going through also, and facing it, whatever he was going to, facing it. What are the root causes of it, and because to me it just sounds like a waste of a life. Like, this guy, he knows how to do all that planning to do this event, so obviously he has some kind of, he wasn't that dumb, right? He could learn how to do something else. He could learn how to have a job. He could learn how to work in a hospital. He could learn how to work in wherever, a factory. He could learn how to do something, or whatever it is. Just as an example, if he could plan that, well, then he could do a lot of things, but he didn't do a lot of other things, and it just, somewhere inside of me, I just really believe like a lot of this have something to do with, even this guy, opportunity. The opportunity to get yourself out of the situation you're in, no matter who you are, even as a young person, opportunity. And I think, all of this shit about like school costs money, the lack of freedom. Yeah. The fact that we put so much freedom in a gun and we don't put it into other things, opportunities for people to better themselves. I think it might have more to do with that than anything else. I'm not trying to make excuses for it, but to me, it just seems like it happens too frequent. It happens too frequent in the. This is just happening all over. So there has to be more to this,
Looking for the families who have lost their children, for these young lives that are now fighting to recover, and for our entire community that has been so deeply traumatized by this senseless attack. We will stand together to protect our children, our
people. Please subscribe. If you're in the chat, subscribe, because I'm about to put subscriber mode on.
schools, and our houses of worship. This deliberate act of violence is just a sign of cruelty that is beyond comprehension. Our hearts,
Yeah, he's sick, man.
Our hearts are broken for everyone that's been affected by this tragedy. As we begin the difficult path of healing, I want the community to know this, that even in the face of such evil, the Minneapolis Police Department and
But you could call it this, but I guarantee you, you could call it evil, and but I guarantee you, if you read the stuff like in that manifesto or find out that he was frustrated about something, he probably had thoughts a lot of people have and was just pissed off, just like one of these guys who went in and shot up the post office. I forgot, just take that as an example, had an argument with his wife and he just loses it one day, just one day. And there's a gun around, access to guns,
and all of our law enforcement partners stand with our community. We stand with these families and with this parish. We will continue to be here for you. With that, the investigation is obviously in its preliminary stages, and I will attempt to take some questions to provide further information.
Chief, what can you tell us about the suspect in this case? How old was he? Any kind of motivation? Any notes or any other information that were left behind?
So we were looking.
Somebody said the shooter is a trans woman. Okay, I'm gonna look at that real quick.
The question was, what can be said about the shooter? We believe it is one suspect, a sole shooter. We believe he is deceased. He is in his early 20s, does not have an extensive known criminal history, and we are looking through information left behind to try and determine some type of motive. Yeah.
How many kids attend the school? How many kids at the school?
How many children? I don't have an exact, the question was how many children at the school. There were dozens of children inside the mass at the time. I don't have an exact.
Somebody said they had purple hair and voted for Obama. But I mean, look at how many people go out and kill people and vote for Trump. I mean, this is what I'm trying to get at, It's, I myself, when I look at this, I'm looking at this as an American outside of the U.S., an American that grew up with knowing, guns exist in the U.S., knowing what that's like. But having a chance to live outside of the U.S., I see it from a slightly different perspective. And that is just senselessness. I don't get it too much into the why or, into things like you voted for Obama, that one voted for Trump. No, this is more American than both Obama and Trump. This is American. This is Abraham Lincoln. This is Dixie. This is Buffalo Soldier. That's what this is. This is some shit that is just continuous throughout the U.S. The U.S. Oh, you being sarcastic? Oh yeah. Nah, sorry, Mitchell. But no, it's cool you say that because you raise a valid point in any way, because a lot of people will try to put it off or some shit. But this is like going way back into U.S. history. You know what I'm saying? Like, since when has since when has the U.S. not had guns? You know what I'm saying? It's been killing. People been killing the whole time. I think that's one of the problems with the U.S. maybe, that the United States never put the goddamn guns down. Just put it down for a second. You know what I mean? They kept the gun laws the same since since they were killing Indians and shit, kicking Indians off the land. The gun laws are still the same. Everybody got to have the right to have one. Like the Indians are coming and shit. It's like,
Act count. The children have been relocated into the school, which is where their families are reunifying with them.
Are there any weapons other than the weapons?
Reg.
Other than the weapons, was the shooter a student, former student? Was he a former employee? Do we know that?
The question was, do we know if the shooter was a former school employee or a former student? We don't have that information.
Did you leave anything behind other than the weapons? No.
There's a vehicle. The question was anything left behind? There's a vehicle that we believe that the suspect used that is being searched. I don't have an exact count. The children have been relocated into the school, which is where their families are reunifying with them.
Are there any weapons other than the weapons?
Reg.
Other than the weapons, was the shooter a student, former student? Was he a former employee? Do we know that?
The question was, do we know if the shooter was a?
All right, let me follow up on this. Is the audio good? Let me know if the audio is good. It says the shooter identified as a 23-year-old individual named Robin Westman, legally transitioned and identified as a female. Court documents show they were born Robert Paul Westman on June 17, 2002. That's a very young person. In comparison to me, let me see. And in January 2020, changed their name to Robin, stating they identified as a female and want their name to be reflect that identification. Okay. Right. Okay. Multiple official sources include the FBI and local Minnesota authorities confirmed this identity and transition. Homeland Security Secretary Abuba Dupa described the suspect as a man claiming to be transgender. I mean, she's just anyway. In an official statement. So in short, yeah, okay. So the person was but again, in the USA, what would that point? What would that add to it? What insight would that add to it? Because these kind of shootings are so normalized and regular. These shootings, man. What would it possibly add to? How would it be? What would it do? I mean, maybe in some way it could explain the direct motive, like what made the person go crazy for that moment. Okay, maybe that's what it is, but the other stuff doesn't change. Like anybody can go crazy, but why do there's reasons why people go so crazy that they pick up a gun and go out there and shoot other people, like a whole lot of other people that have nothing to do with it. That's different, and that tends to happen a lot in the U.S. And what I'm wondering is, how do y'all think it affects your life? Do you maybe that's what I should ask. Do you all think that when you, and I'm asking everybody in the chat and anybody who's listening, right? Do you think that you lose something, some quality of life when these type of events seem to go on and on and on, and there is no way, there's been no solution to stop it? Like, and do you think gun violence in general affects the quality of your life? If you do, and it doesn't matter if it's a lot or a little, if you do, if you think it affects it in some real way, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't, put a 2 in the chat. I'm just curious what people think about that. And I'm about to put the chat in subscriber mode. So it's going to be set to 1 minute. So that means if you haven't subscribed, by the time I do that, you're going to be out of the chat, but then you can subscribe instantly. And 1 minute after, you'll be back in the chat. So I'm just letting y'all know.
Former school employee or a former student, we don't have that information.
Did you leave anything behind other than the weapons?
There's a vehicle. The question was anything left behind? There's a vehicle that we believe that the suspect used that is being searched. And we will be conducting other searches related to this.
Where was it parked?
Inside the parking lot here. Yep.
There was some neighbors who said that the door to the church had been barricaded.
Yep. So the question was, neighbors had said that the door to the church had been barricaded. The shooter approached on one side of the church building, and on that side, at least 2 doors, it appears there had been like a 2x4 placed. So not all of the doors around the building, but on the side
I'm
where
in
the
subscriber
shooter did
mode
fire.
now. Hey, if anybody got locked out of the chat, just subscribe, and then you'll be back in the chat in 1 minute.
On the outside, yes.
Were there any explosives that were found?
The question was there any explosives? There were reports of that. There were no explosives or improvised devices that we found. I do believe there was one, I guess you would call it a smoke bomb.
Okay, so my question again to the listeners is, do you feel like violence in the U.S., do you think that it's at the point where it really takes more away from the quality of life than the guns give you? Like, do you feel like the guns make things safer? If you feel like the guns in the U.S. makes things safer, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't, put a 2 in the chat. If you think it makes things unsafe or more unsafe, put a 2 in the chat. I'm just curious about that aspect of it. So let me see here. So yeah, I wish the people hurt, their families peace, and yeah, my heart goes out to people like this. I don't live my life like this. Where I live, there's none of these kind of events going on in Denmark. You rarely see anything, if at all, like this. This is just a person going out shooting a whole lot of people. You never hear about that in Denmark. You might hear about a shooting here or there, mostly crime related often, you know what I mean? Or it could be something like a man angry one day at his wife, or vice versa, or family, but it's very, very rare, even in those cases, very, very rare. And so most people don't really feel like when they leave the house, they don't feel any threat. Pretty much. Most folks don't feel any damn threat. When we leave the house happy, minding our own business, but happy and not thinking about anyone coming in our way about for any reason. But in any case, let's move on now. Trump seems to be up to his same shenanigans with Epstein, right? And let me see for a second. How many people put 2? So y'all don't care about guns? Listen, if you think guns makes things safer in the U.S., put a 1 in the chat. If you think guns make things more unsafe, put a 2 in the chat. I want to get everybody's response on that. This guy, somebody said Denmark had a mass shooting 2 years ago. Oh, really? Well, I mean, how often does the U.S. have a mass shooting? Let me see that. I don't know if we had some terrorist, I think, events. I don't know if that's what you mean, but let me see here. Mass shootings. 2 seconds. I think we had something like somebody at a mall. That was during COVID, but it wasn't. I'm not sure, but yeah, that was in 22, right? Copenhagen mall shooting. That's right. That's what came up, and then the time before that was 2015. So that's what I mean. It's pretty rare. It's pretty rare, something this big is not normal, but we did have that mall shooting. And yeah, it's true. It's true. I remember that. And but still, it's so infrequent. People are not going to. It doesn't make people feel unsafe. That's not what makes people feel unsafe here. These kind, because they're so infrequent. I would suspect in the U.S. guns are more readily available, so they might have more impact, positive or negative. I'm just curious. How many of y'all think guns make things safer? If you think it makes things safer in the U.S., put a 1. If you think they make overall things more unsafe, put a 2 in the chat. I'm just curious about that. Yeah. Look, Norman wrote, if you don't like guns in the United States, you can move to a different country. Well, Norm, guess what, buddy? It doesn't even have to be about guns. People, if you're free to move and live wherever you are. Me, I'm a free person. So I'm free to not just live in my hometown, but live outside of my hometown. Not just live in my own country, but live outside of my own country. And I don't do it because of your suggestion, Norm. I do it because I already knew that the world was big, and and I want to be a part of the world as much as I can. I want to have an impact. I want to live life. I want to be free, Norm. Not just in the United States is not just where freedom exists. Freedom is everywhere. And like you said, people are welcome to do anything they like. But I would say you shouldn't tell people if you don't like guns. No, you should tell people, hey, if you like freedom, try and see what the world is about. That's how I would look. I would tell people that anyway. I would tell my kids that. Go and see the world, y'all. Go and see the world. That's my advice. This doesn't have to be about what you don't like either. It could be about what you like. Try it that way. But in any case, all right, I appreciate the feedback. But in any case, Trump is still on his shenanigans. Epstein is still Epsteining. Maxwell is still Maxwelling. And Trump is still trumping over this. And guess what? They simply have not released these files. And they're not going to. Not redacted. The only thing they've released is shit that's covering up everybody else who's involved. So let's take a listen.
Not care. Nothing can make them care. Most of the White House press corps has no idea what any of those victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell have said under oath about what happened to them. We are watching the worst president in history manipulate the worst White House press corps in history every day. But not Catherine Lacey and not Nancy Cortez, not today. It was Catherine Lucy of Bloomberg who got Donald Trump to lie about the J.D. Vance meeting, about the Epstein situation.
MAGA people don't care if Trump lies to them to their face. And they do live in an alternate world. A world where you don't admit nothing. No matter how bad things are, you just don't admit it. No matter how broke your ass is, just don't admit it. I mean, that's the worst kind of hard-headed to be. You know what I mean? And this is another case where you just adapt and just to accept lies as being normal and having no consequence. You end up living in a whole world of lies, an alternative universe. Look at this.
Is President Vance hosting a gathering this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
Is he working on what?
Is he hosting some kind of gathering of top advisors this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
I don't know. I could ask you that question.
He just lies right out in front of people. With that, MAGA people still support it.
Donald Trump knows. That was Donald Trump lying. Everyone in that room knows that Donald Trump was lying when he said he doesn't know.
And think about this. You pay taxes for this guy to lie to you and play with your life. Play with your life. And see, what makes me wonder the most is that if you're going to have a gun for anything, at least it would be to defend yourself from a person who's taking your money, your hard-earned money, and spitting in your face like that. I mean, at least you would be angry about that with your gun. But a lot of MAGA people, they don't see that as being part about their view of freedom. They don't believe that having a president that gets paid by their tax dollars means that that president should be responsible for everything they do and say in your name, you know? And but Trump, he doesn't give a damn. Trump just go out there and lie and laugh. His whole administration is laughing about it, laughing in your faces. And as you listen on, you will find out that Trump gives credit only to the Democrats for wanting the Epstein files released. He himself says it's just a Democrat hoax. He's not even talking about MAGA people anymore wanting these Epstein files released. I wonder if you're a MAGA supporter, any MAGA supporter in the chat or listening, if you still, and please, liberals and center people center, everybody else but MAGA, don't say anything. Just let the MAGA people respond right now. MAGA people, if you want the Epstein files released, unredacted, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't, put a 2 in the chat.
If his vice president was having a meeting about him, the other reporters in that room did not care that Donald Trump just lied to their faces and laughed at them, saying, I don't know, I could ask you that question. These are the same White House reporters, many of them, who screamed at Joe Biden in unison about the same subject when they believed their job was to attack him. And when they teamed up to attack Joe Biden's White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, they conducted coordinated, screaming attacks on her. And Donald Trump stands there and lies to their faces, insults them, and laughs at them, and they accept it. Here's the rest of what Donald Trump said in response to Catherine Lucy of Bloomberg.
I don't know. I could ask you that question. I don't know of it, but I think here's the man right here.
I saw it reported today, and it's completely fake news. We're not meeting to talk about the Epstein situation, and I think the reporter who reported it needs to get better sources.
Look, the whole thing is a hoax. It's put out by the Democrats because,
I mean, they're so comfortable lying to this is, and Democrats don't believe this shit anyway, right? I mean, intelligent people would never believe anything that he's saying, but MAGA people don't seem to think it's a problem. And here's the thing. If you don't fight against this, MAGA people, if you don't fight against this behavior, all you're going to do is get more of it yourself. But the people that do fight against it, they will be able to end this behavior in their lives. MAGA people accept it because think about this. The people that they're going to continue to do this shit to is the only people that it works on. And other people, they're going to learn that, hey, these MAGA people are stupid. Did you see how they let Trump step all over them? Yeah, man, if you want to go brainwash some people and use them and get them to do whatever you want because they're so damn stupid, go get some MAGA folk. Go to that state. That's where they support. They like being used. They don't want nothing for their tax dollars. You're going to get more of this shit if you don't fight against it. I mean,
because we've had the most successful 6 months in the history of our country, and that's just a way of trying to divert attention.
Have you had the most successful 6 months in this country? He doesn't sound like it. He doesn't sound like it. I mean, you know, which one is it? Is it a shithole country or is it a great country? It's from one day to the next with Trump.
To something that's total bullshit. Okay?
You hear that? MAGA people, he calls the Epstein files bullshit. Bullshit. That's what he calls it now. He says it's a Democrat hoax. He's tired of the Democrats asking for the Epstein files. That's according to Trump. And he says the whole thing is bullshit. But MAGA people, do you think it's bullshit? Do you think it's bullshit? The people that want the release of the Epstein files? If you're a MAGA supporter, if you're a Trump supporter, and you think it's bullshit to want the Epstein files to be released, fully, unredacted, right? Only the victims' names, nobody else, only the girls, only the people that were little girls' names should be redacted, right? If you want the list to be released that way, then put a 1 in the chat. If you want more people's names redacted, people that were there, men that had relations with these girls, men that even sat in the same room as these little girls, anything like that. If you want it redacted and covered up, put a 2 in the chat. See, I don't see many MAGA people answering right about now, but all right.
They're used to it now. They are completely beaten down. The White House press corps hears the President of the United States in the Oval Office use profanity, and they have absolutely no reaction to it whatsoever. The first president in history to do that. And he now does it repeatedly, especially.
All right. Somebody said, Bodie said, everyone wants that. Okay, well, how come you didn't put a 1 or 2? You could answer 1 or 2. And listen, okay, so now I'm going to change it. Forget it. No more MAGA people. We're not waiting for them. Center or left people that are not MAGA folk. Do you want the Epstein files released? Put a 1 in the chat. And if you don't, put a 2 in the chat now.
Actually, about this subject, the Epstein situation, which is really the Trump situation, is what pushes Donald Trump to use that word and use it repeatedly. Donald Trump brings his deviancy into the Oval Office and flashes it for all to see and hear, his vulgarity, his profanity. Most of us use profanity, but most of us know when it's inappropriate. We don't use words like that in church. We don't use words like that with children. We don't use words like that here on this program. And children have been listening admiringly to presidents of the United States since the invention of radio. And children have only heard one president in history descend.
Yeah, that's facts. Lawrence is going in. It's true. It's true. Trump is like the first president to really curse in the White House openly on TV and just bring down the whole, he was very successful in making the White House look so unimportant.
Some of the Epstein files over to the House Oversight Committee today. Are you in support of them releasing all of them? Keeping it open. If they wanted.
Look, you can see his body language. I'm gonna open this up a little bit. Let's look at his body language for a second. When he says sure, it's like, but his body moves in a way that usually that means no, what his body said. And then after he says sure, then he goes on to tell you why he doesn't want it all released.
Are you in support of them releasing all of them?
Keeping it open.
If they wanted to release.
People shouldn't be hurt, but I'm in support of keeping
the Epstein files over to the House Oversight Committee today. Are you in support of them releasing all of them?
You see that little shrug of the shoulders?
Over to the House Oversight Committee today. Are you in support of them releasing?
That's not too confident. He's like, it's okay, huh? That's not really like, yeah, man, why not? He's like, maybe. Those shoulder things are like, maybe. Yeah, he's like, it's okay. But his body is saying, it depends.
Keeping it open.
If they wanted to release.
People shouldn't be hurt, but I'm in support of keeping it totally open. I couldn't care less. You got a lot of people that it could be mentioned in those files that don't deserve to be. People, because he knew everybody in Palm Beach.
It could be a lot of people in those files that don't deserve to be. If you agree with that, no, forget it. If you disagree with that statement, put an N in the chat. If you disagree with that statement, put an N in the chat. Okay, the letter N. If you disagree with what Trump just said, that there could be a lot of innocent people here.
Don't deserve to be. People, because he knew everybody in Palm Beach. I don't know anything about that, but I have said that don't deserve to be. People that being totally open, I couldn't care less. You got a lot of people that it could be mentioned in the files that don't deserve to be.
There could be a lot of. Do you agree with that or disagree? If you disagree with that, put an N in the chat. Okay, there you go. 6. I don't agree with that. Where did this come from? Who agrees with that? There could be a lot of people in those files that don't deserve to be. Nah, if you was there, you deserve to fucking be. What the what the hell? At the very least, it doesn't mean you did anything. But what are you hiding? Like, if you're there, you deserve to be mentioned, especially this time. Come on. Don't you want to uncover a crime? Like, what this dude is like, how does he know there's a lot of people in there that don't deserve to be? Who the hell is he talking about? You know what I'm saying? This is crazy.
People, because he knew everybody in Palm Beach. I don't know anything about that, but I have said to Pam and everybody else, give them everything you can give them, because it's a Democrat hoax.
Okay, is this a Democrat hoax? This is only for people that support Trump. Now, if you support Trump, is this a Democrat hoax? Put a 1 in the chat if this is a Democrat hoax. Put a 2 in the chat if this is not a Democrat hoax. In fact, everybody, fuck it. Everybody, everybody, put a 1 in the chat if this is a Democrat hoax. Put a 2 in the chat if this is not a Democrat hoax.
It's just a hoax. The whole Epstein thing. Hoax. So we had the greatest.
Yeah, they released the hoax
in the history of the presidency, and the Democrats don't know what to do, so they keep bringing up that stuff. Everything you can give them, because it's a Democrat hoax. It's just a hoax. The whole Epstein thing is a Democrat hoax. So we had the greatest 6 months.
Libertarians, libertarians out there, is it a Democrat hoax? Libertarians.
In the history of the presidency, and the Democrats don't know what to do, so they keep bringing up that stuff. But it affected them.
Yeah, I don't think this is a Democrat hoax. I mean, that's a strange thing to say. I mean, it's just a Democrat hoax, yo. I mean, it's not strange. It's insulting, man. He should get a smack for that. I mean, is this really the best we could elect? He says that these convictions and these depositions from these girls, victims, is just a hoax. That it's a Democrat hoax. So now we're supposed to believe all the Jeffrey Epstein shit is a hoax. So Jeffrey Epstein killed himself over a Democrat hoax. If he killed himself over it, you know, that. So this is the president. So this is the person that you want to cap for. A person that says the Epstein stuff is a Democrat hoax. I'm sorry. That means this man cannot be serious about anything. Nothing he is doing. I mean, yeah, Kamala would have been so much better. She had actual political ideologies, yeah, aspirations and goals. You know, yeah, she did. That's who I voted for. I voted for Kamala, and yes, she deserved it. She worked hard for it. She worked harder than Trump for it, real work, and worked harder than a lot of other people. I mean, she's a seasoned, not politician, but a person that worked for the community, worked for people, you know, a civil servant. I mean, every job she had to win an election. She had to beat someone else in an election to get even the job as the the DA, right? That was an election. That wasn't just an appointed seat. She had to run for that. Vice president, she had to run for that. Senate, she had to run for that. She had to beat someone else. And so, you know, I don't see why. I mean, in my mind, it is really misandry and racism when you could look at Kamala Harris and then look at Trump and choose Trump. I mean, goddamn. Like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And all I could do is ask you, if you chose Trump over Kamala Harris, all I have to do now is ask you, hey, well, do you think the U.S. has a gun problem? And if your answer is no, bingo, then we understand everything. It's you weirdos that don't get it, basically. That's what I think, you know.
Bill Clinton was on his plane and went to the island supposedly 28 times. I don't want to bring that up, frankly. You have...
Okay, Bill Clinton, supposedly, he keeps saying the word supposed because he knows what that means. Because if he really believed that, if he thought there was truth in that 28 times, he wouldn't say supposedly. Did Bill Clinton go to Epstein Island 28 times as Trump says? I'm just going to be belligerent about it and just put that one in there too. As Trump says. I ain't going to leave that part out. Please tell me. Okay, so it says that what the records and facts checkers show, Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet, but no proof of the island visit. Flight logs reveal that Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane at least 26 separate flights, comprising 6 trips. Okay, that's 26 separate flights, comprising 6 trips. Okay, so those are hop around trips. February 2002 and November 2003 included stops in Europe, Asia, and Africa. These trips were tied to Clinton Foundation work and were accompanied by staff and Secret Service agents. It's worth going over this because when you hear Trump lie, Trump is so flagrant with it. You know, he says shit that is like, if you just easily bother to check anything he says, you find out he don't get me wrong. I'm not capping for Clinton, but come on, to say what he said and to not actually know himself. That's why I pointed it out. He said supposedly. Supposedly by who? Who says he went to Epstein Island 28 times? Nobody.
Everything you can give him, because it's a Democrat hoax. It's just a hoax. The whole Epstein thing is a Democrat hoax. So we had the greatest 6 months, 7 months in the history of the presidency, and the Democrats don't know what to do, so they keep bringing up that stuff. But it affected them. Bill Clinton was on his plane and went to the islands.
And not that this matters, but Ghislaine Maxwell also denied that Clinton been to Epstein Island.
Supposedly 28 times. I don't want to bring that up, frankly. You have the head of Harvard, who was Jeffrey.
Would your committee plan to subpoena these 2 executors of the Epstein estate as well?
We certainly would if they are relevant, and it looks like they will be relevant. Like I said, their lawyers have already made a representation to us that they fully intended to comply. Unlike the Justice Department, where it's hard to get compliance. I mean, the Justice Department only released 1% of the files. Of that 1%, 97% was already information in the public domain, and you're expecting the Justice Department to prosecute itself. That's a very hard bar. But private individuals don't have that protection. So if they don't comply with a congressional subpoena, then they really risk prosecution, criminal prosecution, both the lawyers and the executors of the estate. So I fully expect that they will comply.
Reporter Julie K. Brown has been out in front of this story from the beginning, has raised questions about whether the Justice Department ever really investigated Epstein's wealth. Do you think the documents that you're trying to obtain could provide a link between Epstein's finances and anyone else who might have been involved in crimes?
Absolutely. The reality is we do not believe that the Justice Department looked in comprehensively to all of the money. Following the money is the first principle of these investigations. I've spoken to many of the victims' lawyers who have said that there was not a comprehensive investigation. And that's one reason that Massey in my bill calls for the full release, not just of the files from the Justice Department, but also from some of the financial agencies in government. So we have a representation to us that they fully intended to comply. Unlike the Justice Department, where it's hard to get compliance. I mean, the Justice Department only released 1% of the files. of that 1%, 97% was already information in the public domain, and you're expecting the Justice Department to prosecute itself. That's a very hard bar. But private individuals don't have that protection. So if they don't comply with a congressional subpoena, then they really risk prosecution, criminal prosecution, both the lawyers and the executors of the estate. So I fully expect that they will comply.
It's 6 months, 7 months in the history of the presidency.
Sure, Jan.
And the Democrats don't know what to do, so they keep bringing up that stuff. But it affected them. Bill Clinton was on his plane and went to the island supposedly 28 times. I don't want to bring that up, frankly. You have Larry, whatever his name is, the head of Harvard, who was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. Nobody ever talked about that.
Okay, do you believe that he didn't want to bring this stuff up, or do you believe that he's doing it because they have something really to do with it, or he's just trying to distract? All right, so if you believe he didn't have to bring it up, put a or you believe he had to bring it up, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't, put a 2 in the chat. I just want to see. And if you think that he's trying to distract, put a 3 in the chat.
I'm going to sign this for him, but I was sent one, and I thought you'd all like to see it. That's a man named Vladimir Putin, who I believe will be coming, depending on what happens. He may be coming, and he may not, depending on what happens. We have a lot of things happening over the next couple of weeks. But I thought it was a nice picture of him. Okay of me, but nice of him. So that was very nice that it was sent to me. Okay?
Trump is the one person that seems like he carries the weight of the White House like it's just his own personal life. Like it's not serious at all. There's no problems. If you listen to how he speaks, he never admits that there's anything wrong that is going on in his administration. You know, he never admits that there's something he can do better. Right. And he's speaking so calm, and then he just throws things around there, like in the midst of all the troubles that he talks about. Then he goes on to talk about, well, Putin's coming. You know, my friend Putin.
Have you talked to Vladimir Putin about the fact that yesterday a big U.S. factory was hit in a Russian airstrike in Ukraine? What's your reaction to that?
I told him I'm not happy about it. And I'm not happy about anything having to do with that war. I said I settled 7 wars, and actually, if you think about pre-wars, add 3 more, so it would be 10. I thought this would be in the middle of the pack in terms of difficulty. No, I'm not happy about anything about that war. Nothing. Not happy at all. We'll see what happens. I think over the next 2 weeks, we're going to find out which way it's going to go. And I better be...
Does he sound like he's an expert on anything that he talks about? No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Very happy.
How long are you willing to wait? A very good call with Prime Minister Carney of Canada yesterday morning.
Yes.
Canada is taking away some retaliatory tariffs.
He's removing his tariffs, yeah.
Exactly.
He's removing his retaliatory tariffs, which I thought was nice. And we're going to have another call soon. Okay. Yeah, we had a very good call.
You're getting closer towards an agreement on trade?
I like them. You know, look, I'm fighting for the United States. Canada and Mexico take a lot of our business over the years, over 25, 30 years, especially during the Biden years. They took a lot of our business, and it's basically all coming back into the United States now. Well, hot as a pistol, and it's coming back in. Because of tariffs and the incentives we give, it's coming back. And it's impossible, I think, for another country to stop it. And we are working on something. We want to be very good to Canada. I like Carney a lot. I think he's a good person. And we had a very good talk yesterday, so I think it'll be good.
Mr. President, I have a question about the search of Ambassador Bolton's home. The Vice President about him. What are the concerns?
Well, I haven't spoken to Pam and the group yet, but I will be. I saw that just like everybody else. I try and stay out of that stuff. I'm allowed to be, and I'm chief law enforcement officer, believe it or not. You know, I don't like to go around saying that, but I am. That's the position. But I purposely don't want to really get involved in it. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. I thought he was a sleazebag, actually. And he suffers major Trump derangement syndrome, but so do a lot of people, and they're not being affected by anything we do. I don't know anything about it. I just saw that. I'll find out about it. But if you believe the news, which I do, I guess his house was raided today, but my house was raided also. Called Mar-a-Lago. They went through everything they could, including my young son's room and my wife.
Look, what is he talking about? If you believe the news, what kind of statement is that for a president to make? Isn't he supposed to be telling people what the facts are? Instead, he's like, well, if you believe the news, well, what do you believe? God damn it.
His house was raided today, but my house was raided also. Called Mar-a-Lago. They went through everything they could, including, which I do. I guess his house was raided today, but my house was raided also. If you believe the news, which I do, I guess his house was raided today, but my house was raided also. Called Mar-a-Lago. They went through everything they could, including my young son's room and my wife's area. They went through her drawers, as the expression goes. They went through everything you can imagine. And when she came back, she said, she's very neat, you know, she's meticulous.
I doubt they went through her drawers.
The news, which I do. I guess his house was raided today, but my house was raided also. Called Mar-a-Lago. They went through everything they could, including...
Look, if you want to hide the Epstein files anywhere, hide them in Trump's drawers, and no one will ever find them, I guarantee you.
My young son's room and my wife's area. They went through her drawers, as the expression goes. They went through everything you can imagine. And when she came back, she said, she's very neat, you know, she's meticulous. And she looked and she said, whoa, this wasn't the way that she had it. So, you know, so I know.
Translation, that conversation never happened.
I know the feeling. It's not a good feeling. Thank you.
Mr. President, how long will you give Putin?
A couple of weeks. We're going to figure it out. We'll find it.
Do you think you'll have to intervene at some point?
Look, it takes two to tango. You understand that. I wanted to have a meeting with those two. I could have been at the meeting, but a lot of people think that nothing's going to come out of that meeting. You have to be there. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. But we're going to see. In the meantime, people continue to die. But I've solved 7 of them where they were in wars for 31.
Listen to how he said it. He said, it's just people just going to continue to die. Like, does that sound concerned at all? Like he spent 2 seconds really trying to solve that?
But a lot of people think that nothing's going to come out of that meeting. You have to be there. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. But we're going to see. In the meantime, people continue to die. But I've solved 7 of them where they were in wars.
Well, they continue to die. Not that their life means anything to him, but it's troublesome for his own politics. I mean, he guaranteed people, and now he's annoyed that they won't stop dying fast enough. It's like...
For 31, 35, and 37 years. We had 3 of them that were for more than 30 years, Johnny, and I got them solved. And we solved one that could have been a nuclear war with India and Pakistan. That was getting ready to be a nuclear war. I solved them all. And this one, I thought we would have had it done by now, but it's more different. There's a lot of anger, a lot of hatred. There's a tremendous amount of hatred there. So, but we'll see what happens. I think in 2 weeks we'll know which way I'm going. Because I'm going to go one way or the other. And they'll learn which way I'm going.
Does that make any sense? In 2 weeks we'll know which way I'm going. But I'm going to go one way or the other. Oh, really? Is that, you sure about that? Is that one way, or is that 4 ways or 8 ways? I mean, is that up, down? What is that, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock? I mean, you never know what he means.
This one, I thought we would have had it done by now, but it's more different. There's a lot of anger, a lot of hatred. There's a tremendous amount of hatred there. So, but we'll see what happens. I think in 2 weeks we'll know which way I'm going. Because I'm going to go one way or the other. And they'll learn which way I'm going.
Mr. President, if I got two questions for you. One on FIFA, the other one on...
Him and Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, him and her will have a wonderful conversation. The way they talk, they both do that weave like real well.
Can you talk about the economic impact that FIFA will have in these cities, and what's your message to the mayors to get their cities prepared, not only the beautification process, but also...
Yeah, his answer for everything is 2 weeks. That's his automatic fallback answer and shit. When you going to have those candy bars ready? 2 weeks. When's that war going to be over? 2 weeks. When you going to pick up your wife's drawers? 2 weeks. It's like 2 weeks for every damn thing.
Over to the House Oversight Committee today. Are you in support of them releasing all of them?
Keeping it open.
If they wanted to release...
People shouldn't be hurt, but I'm in support of keeping it totally open. I couldn't care less. You got a lot of people that it could be mentioned in those files that don't deserve to be. People, because he knew everybody in Palm Beach. I don't know anything about that, but I have said to Pam and everybody else.
Hey, that's code word for he has to protect everybody in Palm Beach. You know, a lot of people in Palm Beach. Could be a lot of people that don't deserve to have their names mentioned that are in those files. Could be, huh? Okay.
Give them everything you can give them.
Or it could be a lot of guilty ass people in them files.
Because it's a Democrat hoax. It's just a hoax. The whole Epstein thing is a Democrat hoax. So we had the greatest 6 months, 7 months in the history of the presidency, and the Democrats don't know what to do, so they keep bringing up that stuff. But it affected them. Bill Clinton was on his plane and went to the island supposedly 28 times. I don't want to bring that up, frankly.
How long did Bill Clinton stay there for? I don't know, possibly 2 weeks.
You have Larry, whatever his name is, Summers, the head of Harvard, who was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. Nobody ever talks about that. I mean, but I don't want to hurt Larry.
Trump is a cold snitch. You could tell when he gets cornered, he will snitch on everybody. But, you know, he's so criminal minded that he really does try to get away with the lies just on the surface, you know, first.
But he was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. No, this is a Democratic hoax to try and get the significance of what we've done over the past 7 months. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They say it's #1 in history. What we've done, including stopping 7 wars. I mean, just include that.
Hey, they say it's it's the best in history. What did he just say? Something the best in history. What? What is he even talking about? Hold on, let me hear that again.
Joe Biden or Kamala were president, this market we would have had a crash like in 1929. You're not going to have that. Epstein's best friend. Nobody ever talks about that. I mean, but I don't want to hurt Larry Summers. But he was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. No, this is a Democratic hoax to try and get the significance of what we've done over the past 7 months. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They say it's #1 in history. What we've done, including stopping 7 wars.
Who is they? Who says it's #1 in history?
I mean, just include that. And now you look at the stock market today. It's way up to start off with from where I took it. And this market was going to crash. If Joe Biden or Kamala were president, this market we would have had a crash like in 1929. You're not going to have that. It's only a question of how high is it going to go. You know, I had the strongest economy in the history of our country. And despite COVID, we had the strongest economy in the history of our country. And we're going to blow it away this time. I was always good at making a lot of money. And whether it was for myself or whether it was, I like doing it this way better. I mean, I like making it for the country. Our country's been ripped off by friend and foe, nations all over the world ripped off. And the friends have been much worse than the foes for the most part. And they're not ripping us off. We just signed a deal with the European Union. They're paying us essentially $950 billion, like a signing fee. They're going to buy $750 billion worth of energy. They weren't buying much of our energy there. And they're very smart in doing it. And as you know, Ursula was here a couple of days ago having to do with the people, the leaders that we had a great, people said they've never seen anything like it. Well, we had the leaders of Europe right here in the Oval Office. And she's so happy that she has an agreement. But people aren't ripping us anymore. We're run by, this country is run by smart people now. Mr. President, in Israel,
You know you're in trouble when you got to say this country is run by smart people.
and they're very smart in doing it. And as you know, Ursula was here a couple of days ago, having to do with the people, the leaders that we had a great. People said they've never seen anything like it. Well, we had the leaders of Europe right here in the Oval Office, and she's so happy that she has an agreement. But people aren't ripping us anymore. We're run by. This country is run by smart people now.
Mr. President, in Israel.
Two questions. One is about Intel. There have been reports that you're considering taking a stake in Intel. Can you tell us
About the 10%?
About the 10%.
Yeah, I met a man. He was a very nice man, and I called for his removal because I saw something by a man named Tom Cotton, a senator from Arkansas. He's a great guy, friend of mine, supporter of mine, big supporter. I'm a supporter of his too. And he wrote a pretty nasty story about the head of Intel. And I said, well, if that's right, he should resign. And he came in, he saw me, we talked for a while. I liked him a lot. I thought he was very good. I thought he was somewhat a victim, but you know, nobody's a total victim, I guess. And I said, you know what? I think the United States should be given 10% of Intel. And he said, I would consider that. I said, well, I'd like you to do that because Intel has been left behind, as you know, compared to Jensen and some of our friends, NVIDIA, some of the people, and the people in, because Intel should have never been. Intel was the biggest, most powerful chip company in the world. And then they started leaving. And they started going to foreign countries, in particular Taiwan. And if we had a president that would have said, okay, you can go to Taiwan, but we're going to put a 100% tariff or a 200 or 300 or a 500% tariff, anybody that sells into the United States has to pay. They wouldn't have left. They would have never left, and we wouldn't have. So in the meantime, we had people that were,
Yo, this guy can ramble. He's rambling. This is like a 9-minute ramble. Is totally incoherent. Here, listen.
good politicians that weren't good on trade. I loved that man, but he was not good on trade. I really am honored that the National Guard has done such an incredible job working with the police. And we haven't had to bring in the regular military, which we're willing to do. We have to. And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one. But they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with Trump come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know. And
is it, hold on, true or false? True or false? If what he just said is true, put a 1 in the chat. If what he said is not true, put a 2 in the chat.
Are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one. But they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with the black vote, as you know. President Trump come to Chicago. Please. But they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies.
He just threw that out there so callously. And look, it's all in a weave too, you know? So in reality, he could throw anybody in the weave at any time. Trump, no matter when he starts talking about one subject, it's all subjects at one time, and anything can be said. I mean, how did he go to this to black women out of all the things, you know? And by the way, keep in mind, y'all, there's no black woman in that room. And he fired many of them. He just tried to get a black woman fired claiming that it's DEI, you know?
The ladies are saying, please, President Trump,
Or,
come
or
to
what? Claiming that she has something to do with housing fraud or something?
Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York, and we're going to help with. And I think really, a lot of these people that you see on television, they are, including the people in this audience, they'll say bad things about me, and then they'll say, thank God he's here, because half of them got mugged, and they don't want to get mugged again. But they're, you know, they work for they work for stupid people that are radical left, and they're made to do things and say things that they don't want to be saying. But the people right here are all happy because you're not going to be mugged in Washington, D.C. anymore. I just want to say Johnny's been my friend for a long time. He's an incredible guy, and we will lay out the red carpet. Andrew, you're going to be fantastic. Rick.
Yeah, this is who people elected. Some people didn't elect him, though. Some people didn't vote for him. A lot of people didn't vote for him. But, you know, in my mind, he doesn't seem serious at all about anything that he says. And I'm just curious, what is up with folks that still support him? Like this, just watching that. Did you, let me ask one more question. If you thought for 1 second anything that he said he was being real about, put a 1 in the chat. And if you didn't, if you knew from the very beginning and on throughout the whole thing that nothing he says he is serious about at all, put a 2 in the chat.
So I want to go to Ty Cobb, former Trump White House lawyer. So Ty, Cook says she is going to challenge us in court. She's not backing down. We haven't yet heard her side of this, right? What Trump says is that, you know, she checked the box on 2 different properties over a period of 2 weeks, claiming both of them as a primary residence. That's mortgage fraud. She oversees mortgages.
Yeah, I can't listen to him and understand why anyone would take one word. He doesn't even seem the least bit interested. It's just la 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 la. Let me just say this. Let me say that. Black woman this. Green people that. Loads of taxes. Dollars over here. Tariffs. You know, they're coming to us. It's like nothing. It's just what is it?
Shouldn't be in the position. If it were that simple, obviously she shouldn't be in the position. But she says she's going to challenge it. She says that she is going to explain this. What do you see happening legally here?
You know, I think that she likely prevails at some point. I think as you presciently highlighted in your opening, you know, the word seems doesn't seem like for cause, which is what that law requires. Trump can't just look at her conduct and be the jury, judge, and executioner. I think that there's more process that's required, and I think cause historically under the law is associated with some sort of malfeasance or corruption in association with that job, not necessarily parking tickets or multiple mortgages.
Okay, just to emphasize, though, as you mentioned, his use of the word seems, it stood out to me as well, because Trump is not somebody, I mean, let's just take when he talks about Jerome Powell, he's a stiff, he's a knucklehead, he's evil or stupid, he's low IQ, okay? When he has something to say about somebody, he says it. So when he comes out about Lisa Cook, he says, we need people that are 100% above board, and it doesn't seem like she was. It's actually unusually
I mean, this is exactly what Joe Rogan was saying. Like going after all of these people suddenly, right? And instead of releasing the Epstein files, like flat out. How many more people is it going to be?
Usually careful of him, by him.
I agree with you. I agree with 100%. It's very clearly caveated.
So let me play an exchange Trump had with a reporter about the issue today. He was asked about, essentially, where's the goods? Where's the goods, right? So here's the question.
Is your administration weaponizing government by digging into the mortgage records of officials you don't like?
No, they're public.
Now,
Look,
try some parts of.
he said no before she even asked the question, you know?
Let's just take when he talks about Jerome Powell. He's a stiff, he's a knucklehead, he's evil or stupid, he's low IQ, okay? When he has something to say about somebody, he says it. So when he comes out about Lisa Cook, he says we need people that are 100% above board, and it doesn't seem like she was. It's actually unusually careful of him, by him.
I agree with you. I agree with 100%. It's very clearly caveated.
So let me play an exchange Trump had with a reporter about the issue today. He was asked about, essentially.
Now, this dude to the right, he actually represented Trump before. He used to be Trump's, I believe he was Trump's White House lawyer before, right? This guy right here.
Essentially, where's the goods? Where's the goods, right? So here's the question.
Is your administration weaponizing government by digging into the mortgage records of
No. Did your administration know?
About the issue today.
He's ready for any question. The answer is no, goddammit. No.
He was asked about, essentially, where's the goods? Where's the goods, right? So here's the question.
Is your administration weaponizing government by digging into the mortgage records?
He heard the word weaponizing, so that's all he needs to hear. Is your administration weaponizing? No. Yes, you are. Everything is weaponized. I mean, imagine if Biden went about shit like this. Now, I'm talking about while being in office. I mean, this dude Trump is going after all types of Americans, just everybody. Biden didn't do that. Biden didn't go after all sectors of MAGA life. Poor, rich, lawyer, citizen. Biden didn't even go after the the Trump supporters that were immigrants that got kicked out. He didn't even go after them because they're voting for Trump. Isn't that crazy? And Trump is sending the military. He's like, this guy is he's going after judges. Look, do you know a case? Where is this damn thing? I'm sorry. Look, where's the case? They just dismissed a whole slew of cases against some lawyers. Let me see here. Where the heck is this at? 2 seconds. Where is this at, man? Let me pull this up. Where is it at here? Is it here? He just lost a whole heaping case. Maybe it's over here. Here, let me. No. It's not this. It's not this. Hold on. He just lost cases. Let's see. Is it this? He lost cases in D.C. The guy who threw the sandwich, they lost that case. They can't get him indicted. The DA, the people of D.C., who sit on the what is it called when you have to indict, right? What is that called when you have to indict someone? They have to take it in front of some of the citizens, that they pick jurors and decide whether it's something that they have enough evidence, probable cause to take a person to trial, right? He lost that shit against the sandwich dude twice, and they refused to charge the guy. The judge refused to accept any case about this dude regarding a felony. So no felony for him, right? And look, it says here, all of these stop and frisk where they finding weapons. They found a weapon, y'all. They found a gun on one guy, and they can't prosecute it. You know why they can't prosecute it? Because there was no probable cause to stop him. There's no probable cause. They can't say, these people cannot tell the judges what the probable cause was to stop him. So even the people that they stopped with a weapon and found a weapon, if that weapon had never been used in a crime, it's not, the whole thing is thrown out. That's what's happening in D.C. Look, check this out. It says, okay, hold on, let me go back here. Is it moving a little too fast? Dag on. They said most cases, here it is, judges push back against DC criminal charges. Now let me try to, yeah, there we go. Veteran defense lawyer and law enforcement experts have been warning about the potential for overreach since the federal government muscled its way into policing decisions in the nation's capital nearly 3 weeks ago. Now, MAGA people, again, and Americans, do you want your money spent this way? Look, they're spending $1 million every day that this these who the hell are these people? National Guard or NDC. Is it them or is it ICE? One of them is just one of them alone is just $1 million a day. A million. Do you know what that money could have gone to? Right now, the federal government owes DC $1 billion. $1 billion that they were planning on using for homelessness, housing, programs for kids, for children. But they're not doing that. But look, they spent all this money to round people up, and with any case, any person that they detain, it doesn't matter who it is or what they detain them, caught them with. If they can't prove probable cause in front of the judge, right, then the cases are being thrown out. Inside the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. on Monday, those tensions broke into open court. A federal judge dismissed a weapons case against a man held in D.C., jail for a week, concluding he was the subject of an unlawful search. And how many people, when we watch these videos, let's be honest, everything that these people have done, all of it, especially ICE, all of it, no probable cause. No probable cause. There is no way, and it is legal according to the Constitution. That is the problem. And so they wasting all of this money when they're locking up a DC resident, an actual citizen of the country, right? They even take it further because all they're doing is wasting the court's time because they have to follow the local law. They have to follow the Constitution. You have to have probable cause in order to have a trial. Otherwise, it's getting thrown out. Look. A federal judge dismissed a weapons case against a man held in D.C. But hold on, they're gonna play more. Where is this at? Yeah, let's go. What else does it say here? It says, it is without a doubt the most illegal. Okay, here it is. I'm gonna pause it right there. All right, it says it is without a doubt the most illegal search because he is a black man who carried a backpack that looked heavy. Law enforcement officers said in court papers they found 2 weapons in Riley's crossbody bag after he had previously been convicted on a weapons charge. All right, the arrest and the decision to abandon the federal case come at a time with heightened scrutiny on police and prosecutors in the District of Columbia. So, hold on now, let's go further. 2 seconds. Right, so a lot of cases are getting dismissed, and this gives you an example because this is a weapons charge. 2 weapons. So if that is getting dismissed, you can imagine how many other things are. President Trump has ordered the National Guard and federal law enforcement officers to clean up the city and crack down on crime. He signed a new executive order on Monday to ensure more people arrested in D.C. face federal charges and are held in pretrial detention whenever possible. Newly confirmed USA Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, has directed her prosecutors to seek maximum charges against defendants and to seek to detain them, and the court system is straining to respond. Right? So, but they're failing. You know, they're not just failing to respond or struggling to respond. They're responding, saying that hey, no due process means no conviction, no trial, no charges anymore without due process. And apparently They're not prepared to. The federal government, ICE, and the National Guard, apparently they're not prepared to police streets because they're not following the law. You can't commit a crime just to be able to charge someone else with a crime. That's not how it works. Riley, who entered the courtroom wearing a white skull cap and a bright orange jumpsuit, had been scheduled for a detention hearing. Instead, on Monday morning, the U.S. Attorney's Office moved to dismiss the case it lodged against him 7 days ago. The government has determined that the dismissal of this matter is in the interest of justice. Prosecutors wrote in court papers. The spokesman for the Department of Justice said Pirro moved to dismiss the charge once she was shown body camera footage of the arrest. So you see, so it's very clear that they're just not even following the law, not even to Pirro's standards, and she's just a nut herself, you know. Judge Fariki, who spent about a dozen years as a prosecutor in the same office, expressed outrage about the charges. Outrage, y'all. Outrage is not nice. We don't just charge people criminally, then say, oops, my bad, he said. I'm at a loss how the U.S. Attorney's Office thought this was an appropriate charge in any court, let alone the federal court. But Pirro pushed back against Faruqi's comments. Let's see here. The judge has a long history of bending over backwards. Yeah. Sure. In any case, let's examine further this real quick, and then let's see how much time we got left.
You're asking whether a SIG dismissed because judges found that stops and searches were illegal. Let's unpack what the data and recent developments reveal. There isn't a clear-cut figure, but here's what's notable. Historical trends in gun-related cases. Gun possession cases, 2010 to 2015. Based on analysis of nearly 500 affidavits, around 40% of these cases were dismissed in court, often due to weak probable cause or unconstitutional stops and searches. Other recent patterns. Reports indicate troubling justifications by officers, such as referencing L-shaped bulges or a person breaking eye contact, which have landed some cases in courtrooms but later been dismissed due to constitution.
It's lagging. Okay. Hold on. Let me try to just.
Historical trends in gun-related cases. Gun possession cases, 2010 to 2015. Based on analysis of nearly 500 affidavits, around 40% of these cases were dismissed in court, often due to weak probable cause or unconstitutional stops and searches. Other recent patterns. Reports indicate troubling justifications by officers, such as referencing L-shaped bulges or a person breaking eye contact, which have landed some cases in courtrooms but later been dismissed due to constitutional concerns. The Washington Post. Broader stop and frisk practices. Racial disparities. ACLU analyses show that Black residents are disproportionately targeted. In 2022 to 2023, Black people accounted for about 70% of those stopped, despite being 44% of the population. Over 136,000 stops occurred in that period. ACLU of DC. Not all stops result in arrests. For instance, in 2023, only 1% of stops led to a gun seizure, and 23% ended in an arrest. Many stops ended without physical contact or meaningful enforcement. NBC4 Washington. Recent high-profile federal dismissals. In August 2025, following a surge of federal law enforcement in D.C., at least one case was dropped because a magistrate judge called it the most illegal search I have ever seen. In that case, Torres Riley was stopped entering a Trader Joe's, detained for a week, then released after prosecutors reviewed body camera footage and dismissed the charges. AP News. Judge Zia Faruqi expressed alarm at multiple instances where search warrants were suppressed or deemed unconstitutional, marking an unusual level of judicial pushback. What does that add up to? Gun cases. Historically, approximately 40% of gun charges stemming from questionable stops have been dismissed. Stop and frisk practices. These often target Black residents disproportionately, and many stops result in no arrests or convictions, though the share of dismissals due to unconstitutional searches isn't clearly quantified. Federal interventions. While not widespread yet, there are notable highly visible cases now being dropped by federal judges for blatant constitutional violations. So, have many cases against D.C. residents been dropped due to illegal stops and searches? The answer is, in certain categories, like gun-based stops, yes, around 40% historically. More broadly, while not quantified, there's clear evidence of problematic practices and increasing judicial concern, even leading dismissals, especially in high-profile or egregious cases. Voices from the community Reddit discussions echo these trends. Open quote, USAO lost 75% of recent Court of Appeals cases as judges decide Fourth Amendment search and seizure cases differently than they did in past years, highlighting growing hesitation to pursue weak cases. Reddit, they are not clean cases when the cops search unconstitutionally. The Constitution is a bit more than a technicality, emphasizing that dismissals are rooted in constitutional issues, not mere technicalities. Reddit, close quote. Summary.
All right, that's interesting. It's important to get these kind of facts when we're talking about sending in federal agents into cities, like Trump is trying to do, to really get a good idea about what the data says, because anybody could be wrong, especially if you don't know the data. I mean, everybody can have their own individual perspective, but the data speaks to the broader trends across any, environment. So, yeah, and I've also had to go through this bullshit, not in DC. In DC, it didn't used to be like this. So much racial profiling when I was growing up there, when I was a young man. But Maryland and Virginia, oh, hell yeah. As soon as you go to Maryland or Virginia from DC, the police definitely like to stop DC tags out there for no reason. Just there's a DC tag, we're going to stop it. It's two black people, especially black men too. Let's see what they got or what they're doing, and then they'll plant something on you too if you don't have anything. Like this, I experienced myself. I actually had to go to a case like this. Luckily, my friend was driving, but the whole thing turned out really, really, really bad. I don't want to go into it, but there was police brutality and all of that shit. Dogs on the highway, window broken, just being mishandled by the police. And then in the end, to justify it, I actually had to watch a cop pull a joint out of his own pocket and say, look what we found. But of course, we didn't have that shit because we're not stupid. Come on, and that's the crazy part about it. It's like, even if we know Maryland and Virginia that well to know that you don't need to go there with anything like a joint anyway. You don't go to, and first of all, we two dudes with dreadlocks, we don't smoke joints. We smoke blunts. It was insulting. It was insulting, but they did, because after they beat you up, break your window, have dogs everywhere, and they don't find anything, they have to justify stops like that, you see? So, now you look at it in retrospect, now today, with all of this, it just goes to show you, number one, it ain't as much crime as they say it is. Number two, the more police you have doesn't necessarily mean you discover more crime or that more crime gets prosecuted.
Good question, because the answer depends less on who makes the stop, DC police, federal agents, or National Guard, and more on whether the stop search itself complies with the Constitution. Here's how it breaks down.
Exactly. He got dreadlocks to get him.
The Fourth Amendment protects everyone in the U.S. against unreasonable searches and seizures. That means any law enforcement officer, MPD, FBI, DEA, Secret Service, Capitol Police, or even a National Guard soldier activated for policing must have legal justification, probable cause, reasonable suspicion.
So you hear that? That's the reality of it. Everybody needs to know that. All of these agencies, it doesn't matter what government agency they come from, they all have to have probable cause, reasonable suspicion, or a valid warrant to even stop you. Period. So people need to stand up for their rights. because not only is not standing up for your rights a waste of taxpayer dollars, they're your tax dollars, but these tax dollars really are being wasted because the judges are throwing these cases out without probable cause. Now that just wasted the police time, the federal government time, the court's time, the judge's time, the courtroom staff time. It just wasted everyone's time when you do it that way without probable cause. It's like throwing money down the tubes. It's like fraud. It's like waste. Isn't that what Doge supposed to be looking at?
Or a valid warrant. If they don't, courts can apply the exclusionary rule, which means any evidence they obtained gets thrown out and the case may collapse. If it's a federal agent, FBI agent.
Yeah. And then when you want your federal dollars and you want to support schools and you want to support teachers in schools and you want to support housing for the poor and the homeless, then they don't have no money for that. But they got all the money for bullshit wasting the court's time and,
ATF,
they got all
Secret
that
Service,
money.
etc. Federal officers are bound by the same constitutional rules. In fact, federal judges tend to scrutinize federal cases more closely because federal prosecutions often carry stiffer penalties. Recent dismissals in D.C., like the Trader Joe's case in October 2025, show federal judges suppressing evidence from unconstitutional searches by federal task forces. If it's the National Guard is not normally used for routine law enforcement. When activated for domestic policing, usually under a governor's order or, in D.C., at the president's request, Guard members are supposed to support police.
Now, there's a lot of people that don't believe. I've seen people in the chat saying before, like, that Nancy Pelosi, she could have called the National Guard to stop Jan 6. How come she didn't do it? Yo, the only person that controls the National Guard in D.C. is the president. The president has to call. People can request, but the president has to make the call. And in fact, people did request it of Trump on January 6th, and he waited 3 hours.
Not independently conduct stops or arrests. If they did conduct a stop search, the same Fourth Amendment standards would apply. An unlawful Guard-led search would face the same risk of suppression in court. In practice, judges might be even more skeptical, since Guard troops are not usually trained to meet the evidentiary.
Oh, let me know. Is the stream dragging? Is it still dragging? Let me know. Hold on. Let me just double check it. 2 seconds. Okay. It's okay. Yeah, it was dragging. I had to fix that. Sorry about that.
Constitutional standards police must follow. So would outcomes differ? No. The constitutional rules don't change depending on who's wearing the badge or uniform. Yes. In practice, the likelihood of mistakes may differ. Federal agents are often more familiar with warrant procedures and evidentiary rules. Guard members, if put in that role, would be more likely to have their stops deemed unconstitutional because they are not standard law enforcement. Bottom line, if a federal officer or National Guard member makes a stop that violates the Fourth Amendment, the outcome would be the same. Judges could and likely would dismiss the case, just as they have with MPD arrests. Would you like me to pull up examples?
So that's what's been going on. Now, you see a lot of the drama on on TV, and you see how CNN and other, maybe not just CNN, Fox and all, how they cover the stories, right? But everything is not going as they plan. There's a lot of bad aspects to this. I mean, number one, they're not making the progress that they claimed they were out to make to justify sending all those National Guard out there, and but in any case, there's more to this. ICE. There's actually some rulings on ICE on the ICE thing that's been coming up. So right now, Trump is basically not looking good, but he still has his sycophants. He still has his supporters. He still has his Supreme Court that's corrupt. By the way, Alito, people should pay attention to this too, because a lot of times they think that maybe regarding ICE. And, again, my hat goes off to the people that have been standing up against this shit and in the courts and on the streets. I mean, the people have been doing an exemplary job, like straight up. It's also the only positive thing, the only part I could be proud of regarding being American right now. When I see people standing up for their civil rights, standing up for the Constitution, it's the only part of being American right now I can really be proud of. You know, like seriously, there is nothing left really outside of my childhood memories and the things that existed before Trump. There was a lot to be proud of, but in this particular moment, you know, Trump is obviously trampling on everything, trampling on history, trampling on heritage, and us Americans, we got to start keeping it real with this stuff. I mean, you know, Trump has only been in the U.S. for he's a second or third he's what they call third generation. He's the second to be born in the country. His grandparents came to the country. He has all this power. And I don't have anything against anybody from anywhere, a migrant or not. We're all human beings, and I'm a classy guy. So I wouldn't want to be at a table with any other human being that I didn't want to treat fairly, one-on-one. Just, you know, some days you win, some days you lose, but everybody's supposed to have a fair shot at life. That's how I like to get along with people. I don't care who you are. When you're right, you're right. When you're wrong, you're wrong. Simple and plain. You still deserve respect, you know, to be respected as a human being, you know. But Trump, him and these MAGA people, they made the whole thing about foreigners and immigrants and all of this shit. And look who Trump is. Look who Musk is. You know, look at them. Look who Stephen, what's Miller is. He's a second, what is he, third generation too? His grandparents came, or was it his parents? It was his grandparents that came after the Holocaust. His family got support from taxpayers, American taxpayers, to relocate from escaping the Holocaust. And he dare go around treating people like this. There's something just not right about that. Yo, 6 cents, I appreciate that. There's something that's just not right about that. You know, there's something very hypocritical about that. There's something very hypocritical with Trump taking up all this space, being so negative about America, when actually the United States has been very kind to Trump. How dare he hate it? He's been able to commit every crime. You know, why would he hate the U.S. of all people? He doesn't even have to follow the damn law. He's gotten away with every crime. And he hates the U.S. He started off dissing his own damn country. Trump's grandfather, yeah. He started off, dissing his own state. Trump started off not paying taxes and defrauding the taxpayers, the average resident of New York. He started his crime spree in his own state, not paying taxes, defrauding people. Who the hell? Yo, raise your hand if you defrauded your own state in the chat. Hey, anybody in the chat, put a 1 in the chat if you defrauded your own state and you proud of it like Trump. I mean, how could you? Nobody here is criminal like that. Nobody. I never defrauded my damn state. What the hell? You know? And this guy's, you know, I'm just saying, my great grandmother was born on a slave plantation. I remember her when I was very, very young. She's a sweet lady. Sweet lady. Trump's grandparents came here and took advantage of the whole goddamn country. Took advantage of everyone. Shitted on the entire country. We don't have the same heritage. We don't come from the same place when we say we're American. You know, that's all I'm saying. And that one, we got to get it together, man. This thing is not about black or white or your gender, male or female. Oh, man, that just disgusts me to even think about that. How many loser men there are out there that have to tell a woman her place. They have to try to deny a woman her right to her own self, her own body. That is sickening. And it's no surprise we got a president that appears to be a flat out pedophile. It is not a surprise. It's not a surprise at all. It is reality. It's reality, you know? And So big up to the people fighting this. Yo, we can do this. We can change the country. The country can change, but let's look in the mirror at it and all try to do our part so they can change and move in the right direction finally, for once. Like, it can change if people take action, the right actions, and make it change. First of all, we got to vote. Everybody's got to vote. It doesn't take much time. There should be no reason why everyone does not go out to vote, seeing how horrible things are right now. There should be no excuse. It only take you 5 minutes if you're registered, right? If you're maybe registering might take you 20 minutes or something. I don't know, 15 minutes. It depends on what your problems are. Some people can't read. Some people can't use a computer. Some people don't know how. So, hey, we got to help people like that too. And Democrats, we got to go out there and find out who those 80 million people were that didn't vote and find out, do they need help filling out some registration forms? What's their issue? We need to be kinder to each other. That's how we're going to get through this, being kinder to each other and being more thoughtful about each other. You know what I mean? Not being so hard on each other. Try to give each other a pat on the back sometime. You know what I mean? Like, there should be space for all of us. There should be also the compassion for all of us when we have issues. Just a little compassion. We got to learn how to take care of each other as Americans, and otherwise this shit ain't going to go nowhere fast. But on that note, I appreciate everybody for coming through and having this conversation with me. I will be back coming up shortly. Well, actually, in the next day, I'm going to be back. But we're going to get through this. And again, the people that's on the front line fighting the fight every day, I have the utmost respect for all of you all. If I ever met anybody who was out there, I'm definitely doing something for you. Like, period, something for you to show my gratitude. And as a matter of fact, if any of y'all out there right now are listening, leave a comment after the video is done. Let me know your contact information. Put a picture up or something. Let me know how to get in contact with you. I just want to verify who's been out there. Send me some emails. My email address is on the page. Please send me an email. If you've been out on the front lines and you got footage or what's happening, you can always send me an email. And because I want to help support some groups on the ground, if I can, in the U.S., in California, in D.C., and in any other place they try to take this shit. You see what I mean? Also, I'm about to start supporting a few candidates also openly and publicly, people that's doing the right thing that I see, that are out there really doing what I would say are the right things to do. Number one, we have to stand up and fight for our country. And we cannot let criminals just try to cheat their way into controlling everything, into controlling the country, into harming the country like they've been doing. So please go to the info page on the YouTube channel. Just look in the info section and you will see the email there. Shout out. Give me a shout out sometime. I appreciate y'all. Pennsylvania immigration ICE is here heavy. Let me know. Send me your use that email address. It's hometown.dc at hometown.dc.doc at gmail.com. But go check it out to make sure I didn't say it incorrectly. Send me your contact information and send me a link where I can see some of the stuff so I can kind of verify a little bit so I can write you back and see what we can do from there. But I appreciate y'all, and best believe Americans that are out there fighting, best believe the entire world is watching and counting on you all. The entire world got your back. Like, trust me. People out there that are against Trump and ready to get rid of his ass in that regime, the entire world has your back and is waiting. Everybody's in support. Everybody in Denmark is in support of this shit. Canada, the UK, Europe, every other place, just everywhere. Mexico, everybody got your back. Because we want to live in a decent world where we can live in a decent world where it can be better, where we all really can respect the actual heritage for what it really is, for real, not for fake, not like with these what Trump tries to make it out to be, you know. Yeah, so on that note, I appreciate you. Exactly. New Zealand is with y'all too. Exactly. Yo, peace, Thorben. Yeah, you two take care. I appreciate that. Peace out, everybody. I'll see y'all in a minute. One.
They want war. Crime babies looking for food. Starvation, the recipe. People subdued. When the people you trust got it in for you. Deceit is the word of the day in every crew. Don't let it go. It's from the days of old. Time's up, but some still do not know. Can I make up my mind? Is it worth the dime? Do I have to take a minute just to make it mine? Life's never fair, but don't listen to the TV. Go out and take a listen to the streets with the people. The slums and the homeless bums with degrees and degrees sitting under a tree. It's not easy in the world for the poor man, the one that brought you to reality. See, they don't want you to know about the black sheep, leaving 7 rows to the 12 families all around the globe with an ancient code. Is it really asking a lot to say? We sitting on the earth looking back at extinct, and I'm standing on some ground that's about to sink. I ain't scared for a minute, I ain't about to blink, but I documented for the world what I see and think. Feel we on the call and up and we on the break. All Congress gonna do is waste paper and ink. Vote or die, you voted and you'll die. You can have it both ways, can't say it's a lie. You can march all you want, but they playing you wrong. They only understand war, it's the same old song. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. All they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. Like a lotus coming out of the mud with colors, I create envy in those with power but jealous. I unify the poor with my song, the hell with the others. Descended the way they treat indigenous brothers, cause I understand we link forever. They try to hate us even though that we keep it together. I'm not talking about controlling the air or the weather. I'm talking about maintaining the truth, the high endeavor. A rebel drops bombs in the midst of trouble. The free world counterattack and now there's double. But nature gets the shit in a way to settle. If you stop the machines for a minute you might hear, but they won't cause the TVs whisper in the ear. And capitalism has eyes that don't tear, and they cloud up and get crazy and won't steer. And like an ab, it's hard to get an ass to listen. Living like this is like living in prison. It's hard to keep hope when you're living in prison. The spiritual thoughts, so yes, the mental prison. The outside, yes, it's got to get through. Something's gotta die, so something here can live. Your life is nothing if you got nothing to give. Keeping the spiritual, yes, disguised as religion. Controlling your mind, the mental prison. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more,